Well, good morning, Knicks Nation. I hope that everyone's well today. I hope you're not sick. And if you do catch a sickness, I pray that you recover quickly and get back to full health as soon as possible. And I hope all your needs are being met today. Today is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. And today we're going to be discussing what did Tom Thibodeau tell us yesterday at his presser, at his media day presser. You know, I forgot about media day. I was looking for them to get right into it yesterday, and I was a bit disappointed when it was just media day yesterday. So that means today they're going to be starting the war in upstate New York at the New York Knicks camp. But I want to just listen carefully to the beginning. This is the beginning of the presser. The first couple of questions and the first thing that Thibodeau said, which really set the tone and really going to set the tone for what we're going to talk about in today's video.
The tone you want to set when training camp opens, and what's one specific thing you hope to accomplish?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you want to set a level of expectation for how we're going to operate throughout the course of the season. And the challenge for us will be how quickly can we all get onto the same page. We have a new group, and this is a little unusual in terms of how quickly we'll start playing, but that's the challenge for every team. So the first part is to be a great practice team.
Great practice team.
Practice well, we'll play well.
Sets the tone for the season.
All right. Second question comes from Spencer Julian of
Watch this one.
MSG. Hey, Coach. Good to have you back in New York.
Thanks, Spencer. Great to be here.
You can see the fake smile on his face. He hates talking to the media.
You've always instilled a defensive mindset with your teams. With this young group, some of which who excel on the other end of the floor, what will be your message to them as you try to get them to bring it on the defensive end every night?
Well, I think you begin with the end in mind. What will it take for us to be successful? And I think we have to be strong on both sides of the ball. And there's going to be some nights in which you don't shoot the ball as well as you do on normal nights, and you want to be able to count on your defense night in and night out. So we'll work on that, and hopefully we'll improve as we go along. But I think it's a big part of winning to be successful in this league. You have to be strong defensively. You have to take good shots, and you have to play for each other.
Did you guys hear that? To be successful in the NBA, you have to play well on the defensive end. The defense has to be the anchor because on nights you're not shooting well, your defense will keep you in the game. Did you hear that? What else happened? I also want to give kudos to Leon Rose and crew. As quiet and low-key as kept, this is the best off-season management-wise I have seen for the Knicks in a long time. Somebody might say, well, what do you mean? They didn't get any big free agents? That's precisely my point. We're always looking for big free agents to save us. You know the theme. Who's going to save the Knicks? That's the theme. And unfortunately, a lot of us in Knicks Nation, unfortunately, are bought into that BS and are looking for some player to come and save us. If there's a savior for the Knicks, it's that man we were just listening to, Tom Thibodeau, combined with the man I'm talking about now, Leon Rose. Why do I say that? We understand as Knicks Nation, whether we like it or not, we have a core of young players. Unfortunately, there's a lot of us that hate on our players. Actually, I don't even consider those Knicks fans. I really don't. When people are talking about Frank is trash and Kevin Knox is trash, I just act like they're Lakers fans. They must be fans of some other team because they're not Knicks fans. Because Knicks fans wouldn't talk about their own players like that. But anyway, we know that we have a core of young players. Mitchell Robinson, R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr. We know we have a core. That's a core of young, very young players. All of those guys are 22 or under. Okay. And now we just added to that core with Obi Toppin, age 22, and Emmanuel Quickly, age 21. Right? So you're talking about Mitch, RJ, Frank, Kevin Knox, Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, Dennis Smith Jr. You got 7 players out of a 15-man roster that are 22 or under. Okay, all of these guys are that young. I think Smith just turned 23, if I'm not mistaken. Dennis Smith just turned 23. But they're all young players, okay? None of them have more than 4 years experience in the NBA. This is for most of them, this is their 4th year for a few of them, 3rd year for others. And of course, for RJ, it's his 2nd year. And of course, for Emmanuel Quickly and Obi, it's their 1st year. So the management understanding, and we were talking about a youth movement just a couple of days ago in a video. So the management understanding they have a group of young players. And us Knicks fans, some of us were concerned because one of our concerns was last year, unfortunately, Steve Mills and Scott Perry went out and spent millions of dollars, mostly on power forwards and players that would actually take away playing time from the young players and hinder the growth of the young players, right? We saw that last year, like a Mo Harkless or a Bobby Portis or Ellington or Bullock. They took time away from guys like Kevin. And then of course you brought in EP, but you took time away from guys like Frank. You took time away from guys, from Dot, who's no longer on the team, who might have developed into something that we wanted to keep. Okay. And so that was what our concern was. And so a lot of people are concerned with that this year. They say, oh man, is Thibs going to come in and play all these veterans and hinder the growth of our youth? Let me tell you what these guys did if you're paying attention now. We were talking about earlier overpaying for pro-level shooters. I was talking about that for a while because I thought the Knicks would do that because we obviously see they needed shooting. So we talked about a Bogdanovich. We talked about a Malik Beasley. We talked about Joe Harris on the wing, right? We talked about a Jeremy Grant. We talked about a Christian Wood. We talked about Davis Bertans. We talked about a Danilo Gallinari at the 4 spot. Those are the guys we really were focusing on as unrestricted, mostly free agents, some restricted, that we had the money to go get. Now, one thing we would know, I think all of us would agree, if we had signed any of them, like if we had signed Malik Beasley 4 years, $60 million, if we had signed, Jeremy Grant, let's say, 4 years, $60-70 million, which is probably, I think he got more than that from Detroit. If we had signed those guys, the expectation from management to Tom Thibodeau would be these guys are starting. Period. That would be the expectation. You don't bring in a Malik Beasley for $60 million or a Jeremy Grant for $80 million or $90 million, whatever the number was he signed for, and say he's got to earn his spot. He's got to earn his time. No, they would be starting. You already have those two as your starters. So they didn't do that. We see they didn't do that. Even they wanted, apparently Thibodeau is very high on Gordon Hayward, and they wouldn't offer him what he got from Charlotte. Now, some people came out and said they offered him a 4th year. Maybe they did. I know they didn't offer him no $120 million. I would thought they would have offered him something like 3 years, 60. And that would have been a lot for that guy, right? But anyway, they didn't get him. They didn't overpay for anybody. But what did they do? They brought in Alec Burks, right? $5 million, 1 year deal. Okay. They brought back Elfrid Payton, $5 million, 1 year deal. They brought in Nerlens Noel, $5 million, 1 year deal. They brought in Austin Rivers, which is a really 3 year, $10 million deal, but only 1 year is guaranteed at $3.3 million. So basically a $3.3 million 1 year deal with team options for future years if they want him. They brought in a bunch of guys on 1 year deals. What do these guys have in common? None of them are NBA level starters. except Noel. I'll give him the exception, but they have not been, for their careers mostly, NBA level starters. Most of their careers, these guys are backups to somebody. Nerlens Noel started off as a starter when he got drafted in Philly, and then later on they got Embiid, and that was the end of that, and then he went to Oklahoma City and backed up Steven Adams, right? The rest of them have been journeymen and bench players. So why is that significant? This is what the management has done. They brought in Tom Thibodeau, who said, I'm not giving minutes to anybody. You're going to earn your time. So that Mitchell Robinson in his third year, Kevin Knox in his third year, Frank Ntilikina in his fourth year, okay, R.J. Barrett in his second year, Emmanuel Quickley in his rookie year, Obi Toppin in his rookie year, okay, Dennis Smith Jr. in his fourth year. They have to beat out journeyman bench players for time. That's what they did. The Knicks set up a situation. Rose is brilliant. This is brilliant. The Knicks set up a situation whereby the young players that we want to see what they have. That's what all of us are saying. We want to see what they got. This is the year to see it. That's why they did not draft. They drafted Emmanuel Quickley. I'm going to tell you right now, he's not going to see a lot of time. I mean, he's got to be exceptional to be able to see some time in Tom Thibodeau's rotation. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to put that pressure on him because he's not going to know NBA rotations like that right now. Okay, he's just not. And being a great shooter is not going to get you time with Tom Thibodeau. You heard him. Defense is the call card. That's the calling card. Because he wants to be able to depend on that defense, whether they're shooting good or not. And that's been his whole career. And let me tell y'all something else. Some of y'all are hoping he changes. Maybe he's not changing. This is who he is. Like I said, if he makes any changes, the only changes I see him making is in regards to a back-to-back game. If they play a back-to-back, I can see him being a little lighter on the practice. But that's really it. The way he runs his rotations, the way he kills them in practice, the wars he's going to have in practice starting today on December 2nd, that's going to continue. And so what Rose did was set the youth up in a situation where they got to prove they're going to come to play this year. He gave them Kenny Payne. He gave them Johnny Bryant. He gave them Mike Woodson. Okay? And he gave them others, but those are the main three. Then, of course, he gives them Tom Thibodeau. They get together in September. Y'all remember? They got together in September. And Thibodeau said, as far as he specifically talked about Frank and Dennis Smith Jr., he said this is a big off season for both of these players. That was his exact words. He said this is a big off season for both of these players. Because that September, which was now 2-3 months ago, he was laying down, he said, look, you better come into camp ready. And yesterday, when they did the RJ interview, RJ, they asked him a lot of things to talk to the players. But the thing that got my attention, when they asked RJ about Obi Toppin, and RJ said he comes in to work out at the same time I come in to work out. And he mentioned that they were working with Johnny Bryant. Because the players from September had the opportunity to, on their own, come and work out with these guys that the Knicks hired as development staff. They have to make that commitment. They're professional. In that regard, the Knicks are saying, you're pro now. You want to get better? Show us you want to get better. We got Johnny Bryant here. We got Mike Woodson here. We got Kenny Payne here. If you're a professional, reach out to them. Reach out to them and get better. And so now the camp starts. And Tom Thibodeau is expecting his expectation. He said, we got to become a great practice team before we become a great team. That's code for I'm going to kick your ass. That's what he's saying. You better come in ready. Okay? So the young guys are going to get an opportunity in camp to win their spots by beating out journeymen, NBA journeymen, Austin Rivers, Alec Burke, Nerlens Noel. They're going to get a chance, Airfoot Payton. They're going to get a chance to win minutes by beating these guys out. And if they can't beat these guys out, they don't deserve it. That's what it's going to come. That's what Leon Rose has set up. It's brilliant, man. It's brilliant. Really is. Because this year, we're going to see the diapers come off, baby. You got to get on the potty now. No more. You're not on the nipple no more. Now it's time to eat solid food. Now it's time to see who the men are. Y'all been in the league 3 years, 4 years now. It's time to see the men. The only players that Tom Thibodeau mentioned in terms of being impressed by yesterday were only two. One was RJ Barrett. What you expect? He says he's got a lot of upside, blah, 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 blah. So you know he's going to play RJ Barrett. I mean, he's not giving RJ Barrett the time, but he's figuring, like I'm figuring, probably you figuring, RJ's going to earn his minutes. He's going to come into camp and kick butt. He looks like he's buff now. And he already is angry for not making that all-rookie team. This kid's coming with a vengeance this year. So he already talked about it. Then he was specifically asked about Mitchell Robinson. He spoke Robinson's name for less than a minute, and he started talking about Nerlens Noel. He said, yeah, Robinson got a good start. Yeah, he got a long way to go. He said, but we got to learn about professionalism and work ethic. That's what he said. He said, but Nerlens Noel, and he started talking about Nerlens Noel. What did he do? That's not a declaration that Nerlens Noel is going to start. What that is laying down the gauntlet to Mitchell Robinson. So you better come in here ready to become an NBA basketball player. Or Nerlens Noel is going to take your place. I'm very happy at our 5 spot. We're solid at the 5. With those two guys, because they're going to beat each other up. They're going to compete, and it's going to make both of them better, and it's going to make the Knicks better as a team. And then with respect to Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr., what did he say? He said he didn't even mention any guards by name. He said, in our guards, we have some of them, he said. And he said, and I like competition. So what are we talking about? What we've always been talking about. He's going to focus on defense. You better come ready to play on the defensive end, ready to pick up his schemes, ready to play at a high level and not take a play off. He never mentioned Julius Randle by name in the whole 20 minutes. Didn't even mention him. The third player he mentioned, which he talked very highly of, and it was also in code, was Obi Toppin. He said, this guy is NBA ready offensively. That's what he said. He's NBA ready offensively. Which is code for Obi. You better bring something on defense if you want to play. And also Julius Randle. This kid's going to take your place if you don't come ready. Defensively. Okay? Listen to the whole thing like I did. You'll pick up the things I'm talking about. Because that's what he was saying. Okay? As we already know, the Knicks are going to focus on defense this year. But again, the most brilliant thing that I noticed, that I realized yesterday, is they brought in a bunch of journeymen. And they're telling their kids, if you think you're ready for the big time, beat this journeyman out in the camp for your spot. Beat him out in the camp for your minutes. And then you'll earn your way there. That's what they said. That's what they're doing. See, because if they had signed, let's say, a Beasley or a Bogdanovich, well, first of all, we know that both of those players, one of the reasons they were even looking around was not only just to get the bag, which they got, they were looking to start. So if they signed him, that would be the understanding. They're going to start. If they signed a Jeremy Grant, that would be, I'm starting at the 4. Or Christian Wood. He's leaving Detroit for your money because he's starting at the 4. But the Knicks did not want to spend too much on these guys, and they wanted to give the youth that they have drafted an opportunity to win their spot and win their time. And so I'm very confident that whoever comes out of camp and becomes part of the rotation with Tom Thibodeau this year, we may or may not agree with what, who it is. But I will tell you, they would have earned their spot. They would have earned their time. And if they're not ready, there's some veteran already on this team that's going to play in front of them. Okay. But they're going to give the kids every opportunity to beat out journeymen. And look, that's fair, isn't it? If you can't beat out a journeyman player for playing time, then you're no better than the journeyman. And aside from Obi Toppin and Quickly, I'm taking Quickly off the table here because Quickly's a rookie. And I'm not expecting too much from him this year because he is a rookie. If he comes off and gets time and plays and busts it out, that's fantastic. That would be good for us as the New York Knicks, and that'll show us a lot more Manuel Quickly, right? But I'm not expecting him in this environment, to take over. I mean, the kid is good, but he's got to really be good here because this is going to be a war, man. All right, so let's think about this. Quickly's competing with Elfrid Payton in his 7th year in the league. Frank Ntilikina in his 4th year in the league. Both of them really good defenders. Okay, he's competing against that. That's the point guard spot. Dennis Smith Jr. in his 4th year in the league. Okay, athleticism off the charts. Quickly's competing against these 3 guys and for the point guard minutes. Ain't but 2 of them going to get a lot of point guard minutes. I think Frank is going to play point guard and off guard. He's going to end up playing both. Okay. Whether he starts or not, I don't know. I want him to, but I don't know. We're going to see. Camp's going to tell us. Okay. RJ technically is competing against Burks. Okay. He's competing against Rivers. He's competing against Kevin Knox because Kevin Knox is going to play the 3 and the 4. So that's who he's going to compete against. And of course, I think we all understand RJ is going to show himself to be the man, and he's going to, get his wing minutes. That's it. Okay. And then you got, my man Mitchell Robinson's competing against Nerlens Noel. Enough said. Randall, Obi Toppin, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist are competing for the 4 spot for minutes from the 4. Okay. He said again, Tom Thibodeau said yesterday, 9 or 10 man rotation, which is exactly what we've seen his whole 8-year career as a head coach. 9 man rotation with the 10th man getting like 15 to 17 minutes. 9 man rotation. And the first 5 get the lion's share of minutes. The next 2 or 3 get a lot of minutes too. And then after that, it kind of trails off a bit till you get to that 10th man, maybe getting 15 minutes. Okay. So he's not changing. That's him. Look back at his career. What you're seeing in that 8 years is what you're going to see here. Okay. So, I love this. So the competition is set. The kids are in a position where they have to prove they deserve to play. And this is real. When Fizdale came, he was BSing us, talking about you're going to earn your minutes when he already had his favorites that he wanted to play. Each year he had his favorites that he wanted to play. Okay. No matter what they did in practice. This is different. And Hornacek, unfortunately, like I said, I liked Hornacek as a coach. I think Hornacek could have done well if Phil Jackson would have let him. But that was the problem. Hornacek wasn't allowed to do what he wanted to do. He was doing what Phil Jackson wanted him to do. And that's no coach. He can't do that. That's just robot. Okay. That's why I think he failed. And he would have done much better if we'd have just let him coach and do what he do what he did in Phoenix. He would have did that. But he was looking over his shoulder at Phil Jackson from the day he walked in the door. So he was basically trying to run Phil Jackson's offense with Phil Jackson's players. Okay. That's why that didn't work. This is the first coach that said, y'all ain't going to tell me how to run my team. This is how I'm going to do it. Bring the players in here and I'm going to put them through my system. Thibodeau has a system. He said there are steps. This is Thibodeau's system. He said there are steps. He told us the first step. You got to be a great practice team. You got to want to be good. You got to want to get better every day. That's the first step. Then he didn't tell us all the steps, but he said there's a series of steps that must, and he said, I'm not skipping a step. He's not. So I'm excited. I'm very much excited because we're all talking about who we think is going to start and who's going to get minutes. Well, the youth have got to beat out journeymen for minutes. Period. The youth have got to beat out journeymen. He also said it's not about individual talent. He said, how well do we play as a team? That's what he said. How well are we as a team? So he's talking about defense. He's talking about team defense. He said, how well do we play for each other? And he said there's going to be some sacrifices made, which tells me Julius Randle might be coming off the bench. He said there's going to be some sacrifices made. He already knows that. Okay? He going to let his system dictate what happens, but he kind of got an idea. The man's been around a while, right? He got an idea of how this is going to turn out. And we're all going to see it. Okay? This is really good, brethren. This is really good, Knicks Nation. I'm excited. We should be excited because whatever comes out of that camp on opening night, never mind what happens on December 11th at the preseason. That's just preseason. On opening night, whatever comes out of there, the starting five, the next 4 or 5, whatever minutes they get, that's what they've earned. And that means Thibodeau is going to have the team he wants to play solid defense and be in every game. This is a joy, man, to know that you're going to have a coach that's going to play on a high level of defense. Defense keeps you in every game. If you play high level defense, you're in every game. There was a year the Miami Heat made the playoffs. I think it was like 2 seasons ago, where they didn't have no offense hardly. Nobody was shooting the ball. Matter of fact, I think that year they had Justice Winslow playing the point guard because I think Dragic was hurt. And they still made the playoffs and they couldn't score. The Knicks, I think one of the few road wins we got that year was against the Heat because they couldn't score. But every game was close and they ended up making the playoffs. See, that's where we want to be. And then when they did get some shooters this year, you see what happened? They went to the finals. But they already had the defensive culture set. Already had it. We're starting there. And we're starting this year. Shalom.